After using the Logitech G29 for 3 years, I decided to do my honest 3-year wheel review video, so let's get right into it. Logitech G29 was released in 2015, but it wasn't something groundbreaking in the sim racing market. You see, its predecessor, the G27, looked pretty much the same, apart from a new wheel rim design with more buttons. And that wheel's predecessor, the G25, also looks pretty much the same. The thing is, the G25 was released in 2006, which is 18 years ago. Of course, each new wheel brought improved things, like pedals, more buttons, smoother gear-driven force feedback, but realistically, this wheel has been pretty much the same since 2006, and in 2024, with budget competition breathing up against their neck, the Logitech G29 is quite in danger. The Logitech G29 delivers the force feedback through two gear-driven motors that produce 2.2 Nm of torque, which I never actually experienced because I use 50% force feedback at best, and later I will explain you why. The force feedback itself works, the 900-degree wheel rotation is enough for pretty much everything. Response time and details are pretty decent, nothing mind-blowing, but it's enough to understand the basics of each car. You can feel each time the car begins to oversteer or understeer. It pretty much does what it should do as a wheel, but that's where the positive stuff about the force feedback ends. This wheel is really loud. I mean, really loud. So loud that it is pretty much unplayable above 50-60% in most of the games, and in some requiring to go under 50%. Most of that has to do with the rattling sounds when going over bumps. If you have really good headphones, you're not gonna hear it, and you will feel the bumps really well, so it's gonna feel pretty immersive. Occasional bumps are good, but if you're playing rally or driving on a very uneven asphalt, it becomes way too loud. Especially when you have neighbors or people living in the same house, which for me, this wheel doesn't allow me to play after 9 PM, otherwise I'm gonna get cops at my door every evening. And the other thing that is not the best, but it's inevitable, is that when you are making slow turns, you can feel each gear, and you can also hear it really well. So it feels like a toy. Apart from that, the force feedback is decent. It works, it's not powerful, but enough to control, feel, and predict the car's movements. The Logitech G29 also comes with a pedal box that looks pretty chunky, but that's a good thing, right? As 3 pedals come with a spring, a soft one for gas, hard for brake, and medium for clutch. This thing has an instant advantage against other pedal boxes coming from the entry direct drive competition. It has a clutch pedal, which many other brands don't include anymore, and you have to buy them separately at a premium price. After using them for 3 years, here's my little overview. They're pretty good, apart from the brake, which is okay. The build quality is very high. The bottom plate has rubber thingies that will make the pedal box not slide. There's also a carpet stopper, so the pedal box won't move anywhere when you are playing, which is good. The pedals are spaced out very nicely, it feels nice and comfy to do heel and toe shifting. Talking about heel and toe, let's talk about the brake pedal and what I don't like about it. I feel like the travel distance is quite big and it is not a load cell, so braking performance is inconsistent. I wouldn't call myself a pro sim racer, but I'm more than better above average, usually hanging around 1 to 1.5 seconds off world records on longer tracks like Spa. And after looking at my data, I lose most of my time in braking. And improving that is hard, because you can't rely on your muscle memory, as the brake pedal records not the force but the distance traveled, and sometimes you brake too much, sometimes not enough, so you basically have to keep an eye on your pedal inputs when braking, which makes a distraction, and over the lap slowly you lose half a tenth in each corner, and at the end of the lap everything just adds up. Again, it's not a bad brake pedal, it's just that it is much harder to push to the limit consistently. Another thing I hate about the pedals, it collects dust like crazy. The little gaps near the pedals are enough for dust to enter the pedal box, and then you just pray it won't mess with the potential meters. Otherwise, you'll have brake flickering, which is not fun. Logitech G29 doesn't come with a shifter, but you can buy it for 50 extra bucks, which is one of the cheapest shifters on the market. The shifter is a 6-gear H pattern shifter. The build quality is pretty good, the whole shifter in my opinion looks nice and matches the wheel. Modding this thing is also very easy. You can change knobs in just a few minutes. Thing I dislike is that Logitech downgraded the shifters over the years. G27 shifter had extra button box further up, which this one just doesn't have it, And the G25 shifter even had a sequential mode, which doesn't make sense to me because it is pretty much still the same shifter, so why did they remove these cool features and made the shifter almost naked? And another thing I dislike a lot is the reverse gear. To engage it, you have to push it down and then pop it into the 6th gear. However, sometimes when you are in a rush when racing and you want to reverse as fast as you can, you try to push down and move the knob at the same time. But when you move the shifter to the right, then push it down and move it into the 6th gear, the reverse gear doesn't engage, nor does the 6th gear, which is really annoying and you have to redo it again. Thing is though, when you successfully pop it in reverse, the knob stays in a lower position and you go back into neutral, you can see the knob pop back up. When you do the incorrect sequence, it still goes into that lower position, so why does it not just engage in reverse then? It's such a small thing, but for me it is one of the most annoying things about this shifter. Let's talk about the design. The G29 has a much more modern look than the G27 and is more practical. The wheel has 18 buttons and one rotary dial. That, to be honest, is quite bad. It feels cheap, it works like a cheap thing, each dial turn has a clicky feeling and a very plastic sound. But what's really bad is when turning, in some places it counts 2 clicks in game when I do only 1 in real life. And this has been the problem with my wheel since the very first day, that's why I don't really use this feature that much. As for the rest of the buttons, only the D-pad and the PlayStation signature buttons feel okay, the rest of them feel extremely cheap. The flappy paddles are okay, there's nothing special about them, they work. A positive thing though, this wheel didn't break in 3 years, apart from the steering wheel becoming a little bit wobbly, but you can fix that by opening the box and screwing a few things up. But it doesn't affect the performance, so I'm fine with it. Now let's talk about the most important thing, the price. From Logitech's official website, I compared US, UK and Europe prices, and they're all pretty much the same. In USA, at the time I am checking these prices, which is February 5th, the G29 and shifter goes for $408, in UK it is £325, and in Europe it's 345 euros. At this price point, you can buy a direct drive wheelbase nowadays, like the Camo C5, which goes for $250 for the base and $300 for the whole bundle, which is pretty good value. I'm gonna be doing a Camo C5 review soon, and if you wanna see that, subscribe to the channel, it would help the channel grow faster. And I do have a promo code on Camo's product, so be sure to check it out in the description down below. Anyway, back to Logitech stuff. There's also the used market, which is what I would suggest to you to try out first. You can find a used G29 with a shifter for around $200 there, which is really good value if you wanna start sim racing. And that brings to the conclusion of my video. I feel like this thing is still the best package to start off sim racing. I wouldn't recommend buying new in 2024 as there are just better options at that price point, but when you buy used, it's great value. You get a full package so you can drive manual cars and semi-automatic ones. This wheel supports pretty much every game, it is reliable, and if you won't fall with sim racing, you can always sell it back, as this wheel won't lose much value anymore, because even the older G27 and G25 models in good condition still go for around $150 to $200. So yeah, if you want to try sim racing, try this wheel. I hope you're going to fall in love with sim racing and become an obsessed sim racing fanatic like I am. Anyway, thank you guys for watching.